The last time someone in a meeting said your team needed more synergy and innovation, they were using a persuasion tactic refined in the trenches of World War I. That technique was designed to send soldiers over the top. Today, it's used to get you to agree to a new project without asking hard questions. You're going to learn exactly how these century-old mind hacks were built, and you'll start seeing them in your emails, your family arguments, and your own internal monologue. Because these tools of mass persuasion are now the default language of everyday life, and the cost of being unaware of them is surrendering your own judgment. One conversation at a time, the most common and seemingly harmless technique is the glittering generality. These are virtue words. They're emotionally appealing terms that we all have positive associations with, but that are completely abstract. Words like freedom, strength, family values, progress, or in a corporate setting, collaboration and optimization. They feel good to hear. They sound important, and they are deliberately, strategically hollow. When a politician promises a return to greatness, what does that actually mean? The word is a beautiful, empty container. You pour your own hopes and definitions into it. The speaker gets your emotional agreement without ever committing to a specific, measurable action. You're agreeing with a feeling, a vague warmth, an idea of yourself as a reasonable person who values good things. At work, this sounds like a manager announcing a new streamlining initiative for operational excellence. Who can argue against sunshine? But what does it mean for your job? Will there be layoffs? Will your workload double? The glittering generality short-circuits those practical questions. It works by creating a kind of mental fog. Your brain registers the positive emotional charge of the word and flags the message as good and safe. This bypasses the critical thinking parts of your brain that would normally start analyzing details and asking for specifics. It's a cognitive shortcut that feels efficient. That's the trap. You've just endorsed a complete unknown because it was wrapped in a nice word. The technique is a form of social anesthetic, numbing the part of you that questions authority. It's the first layer of manipulation. It gets your head nodding. But to truly change your behavior, propagandists needed to give you something to nod against. That's where name-calling comes in. It's the flip side of the glittering generality. Instead of using a vague positive word to build affinity, you use a vague negative label to create an enemy. And it works on the exact same principle of cognitive shortcuts. Think about office politics. An employee who asks detailed questions becomes a roadblock. A manager who enforces deadlines is a micromanager. Someone who works quietly and efficiently is disengaged. These labels are rarely accurate descriptions of behavior. They are weapons. They are designed to dismiss a person and their arguments without having to engage with them logically. The label does the work for you. Once someone is tagged as a micromanaging roadblock, anything they say is filtered through that negative lens. Their valid concerns are reinterpreted as evidence of their flaw. This is a miniaturized version of the posters from the early 20th century that depicted entire nations as monstrous caricatures. The goal is to short-circuit empathy. You can't reason with a monster. You can't collaborate with a roadblock. The label transforms a complex human being with legitimate perspectives into a simple one-dimensional problem to be overcome. It's incredibly effective because it taps into our deep-seated tribal instincts. We are wired to quickly categorize people into us and them. A negative label is a uniform for the other team. It tells our brain who to fight. You see this constantly in online arguments. A person's entire nuanced point is dismissed with a single word. Boomer, woke, sheep. The label is the argument. There is no counter-argument to a label, because it wasn't a logical proposition in the first place. It was a social grenade. The explosion of the label is what matters. Its purpose is to end the conversation, leaving one side feeling righteous and the other completely silenced. The next step is to make that righteousness feel universal. Creating an enemy is powerful, but convincing people to join your side requires a tool that plays on an even deeper fear. The fear of being left out. This is the bandwagon effect. The core message is simple. Everyone else is doing it, so you should too. It suggests that the movement, the idea, or the product is an unstoppable force, and your choice is to either get on board or be left behind in the dust. The appeal is belonging, not logic. It implies that the decision has already been made by the collective, and your job is simply to conform. When you see a product advertised as the #1 choice for Americans, that's bandwagon. The message is that the jury is already in. The verdict is a foregone conclusion. To choose a different product is to be out of step, to be the weird one. This happens in much smaller settings. In a meeting, a manager might say, "I think we all agree that this is the best path forward." This simple sentence is a powerful piece of social engineering. It frames agreement as the existing consensus. Anyone who speaks up with a dissenting opinion is doing more than just disagreeing. They are now disrupting the group's harmony. They are the nail that sticks up. The pressure to remain silent can be immense. The technique preemptively isolates potential dissenters. It makes them feel like they are alone, even if half the room shares their concerns. Each person remains quiet, assuming they are the only one with doubts. The silence of others is taken as proof of agreement. The illusion of consensus becomes real. This is why social media trends can feel so monolithic. The constant visibility of likes, shares, and retweets creates an overwhelming sense of a bandwagon in motion. It suggests a massive unified agreement that might be an inch deep but a mile wide. The pressure is to join the chorus. The fear is what it might mean if you don't. But what if the chorus was never real to begin with? The most sophisticated techniques are the ones you can't see, the ones that make you feel like you came to the conclusion all by yourself. Imagine you're researching a new car. You find a review website filled with glowing 5-star testimonials. You read story after story of happy families, perfect road trips, and flawless performance. You're impressed. You feel confident. You've done your due diligence. What you have experienced is a masterclass in a technique called card stacking. Card stacking is the selective presentation of facts. It's the art of telling the truth, but only a carefully curated part of the truth. The website with the perfect reviews is likely run by the car manufacturer. They have simply omitted any negative reviews. Every testimonial might be from a real person, but the overall picture they paint is a complete fabrication. It's a lie constructed from 1,000 tiny truths. This is the engine of modern advertising and influencer marketing. You are shown the after photo, the perfect vacation, the successful business launch. You are seeing a stacked deck. The failures, the struggles, the immense costs, the 99 failed attempts are edited out of the frame. This creates a distorted reality where success seems easy and effortless for everyone else. It's incredibly damaging because it feels so authentic. Your brain accepts the curated evidence as the whole picture. It is a form of gaslighting. Your own struggles feel like a personal failing because the carefully stacked evidence of the world tells you it should be simple. The propagandist is creating a new common sense. This is often paired with another technique, plain folks. This is where the person delivering the message presents themselves as just a regular, down-to-earth person, just like you. The politician who rolls up his sleeves and talks about his childhood on a farm, the CEO. In a hoodie, talking about starting in his garage, the influencer who talks about her struggles with anxiety. While sitting in a perfectly lit million-dollar home, the goal is to build trust by creating a sense of shared identity. It says, "I am one of you, therefore you can trust me." This disarms our skepticism. We are less likely to critically examine the message of someone we feel is on our team. When combined with card stacking, it's devastatingly effective. A plain folks messenger delivers a stacked deck of facts, and we accept it as honest advice from a trusted friend. Edward Bernays, the father of public relations, called this the engineering of consent. He understood that you could control the masses by carefully shaping the information they see and the messengers they trust. This is the final stage. The propaganda is invisible. It feels like your own, carefully considered opinion. It feels like freedom. So the tools are everywhere. They're in the news, you consume the products you buy, the way your boss speaks to you, and the way you argue with your loved ones. Recognizing the techniques is the first step. You start to see the glittering generality in an email subject line. You spot the name-calling in a comment section. You feel the pull of the bandwagon in a team meeting. You question the curated perfection of a social media feed. That awareness creates a crucial space, a pause. The real antidote is to slow down the conversation. It's about asking clarifying questions. When you hear a glittering generality like, "We need to be more strategic," the countermove is a simple, non-confrontational question. What would be the first sign that we are succeeding at that? This forces the abstract back into the concrete. It demands specifics. When someone uses a label, you can ask, "What specific behavior are you seeing that leads you to that conclusion?" This moves the focus from the loaded label back to observable actions. When you feel the pressure of a bandwagon, you can simply state an observation. I'd like to take a moment to hear from those who might have a different perspective before we finalize this. You're giving others permission to break the illusion of consensus. These questions are the escape hatch. They are small acts of friction against a system designed to be smooth and fast. They reintroduce critical thought where it was meant to be erased. The point isn't to win arguments, it's to make the conversation real again. And this applies to the propaganda we run on ourselves. We use glittering generalities when we say, "I just need to be more confident," without defining what confident action looks like. We use name-calling when we label ourselves lazy or a failure after one mistake. We jump on a mental bandwagon, assuming our self-critical thoughts must be true because they are loud and repetitive. We stack the cards against ourselves, remembering every failure and forgetting every success. The most important conversation to slow down is the one between your own ears, asking yourself, what is this thought asking me to feel? And what evidence is it asking me to ignore? That is the beginning of freedom. Because the tools designed to control nations only work on an individual who has surrendered the habit of asking simple questions.